Welcome, everybody, to the July 2024 SDAA program. We skipped last month, so it's really nice to be here again after the big reveal. Next slide, Dave. Let's talk about the meeting agenda. Tonight's going to be really fun. We'll just do the usual walk around the SDAA website to make sure that people are familiar. We're going to introduce a new logo contest. We have a couple featured speakers tonight, and then of course we have a special contest from the guest reveal to announce the winners, and then of course we'll close out the meeting with the quiz with prizes. So the next slide is when you've seen every single meeting, and that is just a reminder when you want to know what's happening with the club or we need to do last minute updates because of weather, please check the IO groups message group. That's probably the best place to check right away. Otherwise, on our social media, Facebook, sometimes you'll see updates and or people probably having the same questions you do. Please check out our newsletter where you'll find business meeting minutes. You can read about past programs. You can read about what's up in the sky for the month. It's a really nice set of information for you to reference. Also on the website is our merch store. Make sure that you check that out and support the club by proudly wearing some of our swag. Next slide, Dave. We are introducing our new SDAA logo contest. So because of the big reveal, it's not that these logos that you see are going away. They're part of the club. They'll always be part of the club. On the left is our OG, of course, that's on a lot of our merchandise. You've seen the one in the middle pop up just because it's neat and clean. It's here on the program slides. And then our newest one on the right, you can get by way of our stickers. But what we would like to do, next slide, Dave, is inject a little thinking outside the box, a little cutting edge, a little direction that we're all taking with the big reveal and excitement for the club for the future, to take examples of, logos and even mottos of clubs around the world, literally, that sort of, take something special either about the location of where the astronomy club is located or something special about the club, bearing in mind that, astronomy also includes the sun. So we're throwing out to all members the opportunity to just start throwing ideas at us. As a scientist, I was thinking about this. I'm supposed to put everything officially into my digital lab notebook, but more often than not, I'm drawing on paper towels, which is completely forbidden in the lab. Yet that's where some of the best ideas are formulated. So as you think of the ideas and send as many as you want, next slide, Dave, send them to the vice president at sdaa.org. It doesn't matter if the design is pencil, pen, or you go all out with Procreate. Send something because we will have a professional graphic designer touch it up, and maybe we'll pick one or two. The ones that we're going to go forward with will be announced at the 2025 banquet, and who knows, maybe we'll make stickers, or some folks have suggested that they'd like to see patches out of some. And again, the deadline to submit your design so that we can get it all ready for the banquet is at the end of the year, midnight. Next slide, Dave. So that brings us right up to our featured speakers tonight. First up is Vikram, who's presenting a novel convolutional neural network, a CNN architecture tailored for image deconvolution and the restoration of astronomical images. After Vikram, we'll go right to our main feature, which is Dennis and his crew, who are going to share their adventures from the 2024 Grand Canyon Star Party. So Vikram, let's get your slides queued up and take it away.
So my project is image deconvolution using a novel deep CNN architecture with minimal artifacts. So to introduce the problem, in astronomy specifically, usually images on, at least from ground telescopes, right? They're distorted by a wavefront, typically the atmosphere, mount issues, and so they essentially create disturbances and blurs within the image itself. Um, Usually, like high-tech observatories, they installed like adaptive optics to combat this, but telescopes that don't have adaptive optics or scopes that can improve their image further, they resort to something called deconvolution. So all deconvolution is let's say, well, to introduce like the idea of convolution. Um, Convolution is like if you had a kernel. So a kernel is basically like it's it's a small matrix that sweeps across your image, and it computes the uh, mathematical sum of each using that like grid. And so what that does is essentially like blurs the image based on the kernel. So, well, in this slide here, right, you have image A, which is your sharp image, right? And then you have image B, which is basically convoluted by the kernel. And so the kernel looks like this in the corner. It's that little weird squiggly line. So what deconvolution essentially tries to do is it tries to figure out the PSF to reverse the convolution applied to it. So there's a couple difficulties in doing this. The biggest one is you don't typically know the point spread function given an image. Like you can make a good guess on it. And especially with astronomical images, it's easier. Um, but even after all of that, once you apply the deconvolution algorithm, which is essentially like taking your image, taking your blurred image, and dividing it by the convolution of your blurred image to try and get back to the original image, you'll have an image with added artifacts like noise. And this is where usually neural networks are started to introduce. They use like UNets, which essentially reduce the artifacts and reduce the noise. And this gets you to a good portion, but as we all know, neural networks also introduce artifacts. That's just the nature of what they do. UNets, for example, they introduce something. Well, they're prone to introducing like stars to the image. Like they introduce extra stars that were not there before. They introduce in random details that weren't there before. They start hallucinating and they start making up data. Um, and so to actually sort of the best way to get a good model is to create a really good training data set. So to do this, I use something called Zernike polynomials. And so Zernike polynomials are really good mathematical models of the point spread function in common like aberrations. Um, so I used a couple Zernike models to basically model coma, blur, um, I think it was, I'm forgetting it, trefoil. Um, and so I basically took the Hubble Legacy Archive dataset, and I took the good images and I divided them into three 512 by 512 chunks, and I convoluted each one such that I would get the blurred image to be equal to the convolution of the good image by the Zernike polynomial, and that would result in an accurate training dataset with realistic blurs that the model can learn to reverse it. So the model itself is basically three stages. So the first stage is to actually estimate the point spread function. So what it does is it takes the image, it applies a convolution block, and it's followed by a leaky ReLU activation and then a max pooling layer. So what this is doing is it's basically shrinking the image down to a 16 by 16 grid, which will represent the point spread function of the image. Um, so it starts with the 512 by 512 image. It goes through a couple layers of max pooling by 2, which each layer divides the image size by a factor of 2. So the reason I'm doing this is because I'm hoping that the model will learn to essentially extract the most important feature from the image. It utilizes something called abstraction, which is basically taking the most important feature of the image and trying to get the high level details, basically. From there, what it does is it takes the PSF that it found and it goes through the Richardson-Lucy deconvolution algorithm. So it's an algorithm, not a neural network. It takes the image and it takes your PSF and it applies that algorithm to the image, and then you get the resulting image. But we're not done yet. The third part of the network is it's the artifact reduction network. And so typically this is where UNets are utilized. It's usually at this part of the stage. But what my network does is instead of shrinking and upscaling the image, which is what a unit is. So it shrinks the image down and then upscales it back. This is very good because it's a really good way of getting rid of noise, but as you shrink the image down and you upscale it back, that's how you introduce artifacts. It's more prone to hallucination, but in this case, what I essentially do is I keep the image dimensions the exact same throughout the network, and I introduce skip connections. So what skip connections do are they essentially add the matrices between the two layers, and so you preserve the data as you go deeper into the model, because the deeper you go into the model, the more it starts to lose information from previous layers. That's just how it is. So to prevent this, you utilize element-wise addition. You essentially add the two layers together so it retains the information between layers. So at the end, you wouldn't have a blurred or like an image that hallucinates too much. It would be pretty accurate to the training data itself. So for my loss function, I use something called a combination of SSIM and perceptual loss. So the structural similarity index measurement is essentially like how close two images are on the pixel level. And then the perceptual loss is a pre-trained VGG19 network. So what this essentially is you pass the image into the network, and it gives you two images. You compare those two images, and that gives you what are called the high-level features. And then you have the structural similarity index measurement, which is the pixel-wise differences. It's more of a fine measurement of how close your images are. So it's a combination of this. You want to keep the low level and the high level details both to be in the image present. You don't want the model to focus too much on one or the other. So that's why I did a combination of both. Um, and then to train the model, it's it's a very large model, and the data set is about 20,000 images. And so what I had to do was I had to take 4 separate GPUs and split 2 batches. It would take 2 images per GPU, and each GPU would have a copy of the model, and it would just average the gradients and update the model using all 4 GPUs. And even doing this, it took a week to train per model, and sometimes it would take upwards of 3 weeks to train. But as you all want to see the actual results, these are just 4 images. And so what I essentially did was I had a separate data set where the model hadn't seen these images before. And so I applied the Zernike polynomials to each one, and I gave them to the model, and I told it to give me an output. So the numbers you see here, the 0.96, 0.92, these are the structural similarity index measurements of the model. So what it essentially is it took the resulting image from the model and it compared it to the ground truth, which is the original image without any artifacts applied to it intentionally, and it compared the two. And so the closer you are to one, the closer it is of a match. And so just these 4 images overall, you can see that they are much more sharpened, and they're also closer to the actual image to the original image than it would be. Um, the stars are smaller too, which is a huge achievement. And on top of that, there are no added like details or artifacts or anything. Um, it did keep the noise level consistent, and it didn't hallucinate any data. So how does this actually like compare to existing models and architectures? So to like get a measurement on this, what I did was I said these are just 4 images out of the 100 image data set. So I took all 100 of those images and I did a structural similarity index measurement on it, and I got an average of around 0.95. Um, and so when I compare that to existing architectures um, the structural similarity index of the best one received a score of 0.92, and that was a study basically found it was a paper that I linked, um, but they were able to produce an average metric of 0.92. My model was able to achieve 0.97, and with a minimum of around 0.92. So 0.92 was pretty much the consistent for the min. Um, and it is able to deal with blur consistent with atmospheric disturbances, improper focus, coma caused by poor optics, and mount issues, which would be trailing. If the stars were to shift during your image, it would also be able to deal with that. Um, are there any questions so far? I feel like I went off a little bit and I missed a couple points. So
Vikram, this is Ken. I was one of the judges, and you did a phenomenally good job. This is the second year you've gotten our highest award. Do you have any idea what Russ Kroman's algorithms would score on this same scale?
so I would assume that he would get just as good results of mine. The thing is with Russ Kroman's is that it's more focused on enhancing the details of an image. Um, what I mean by that is that it's really good at sharpening the low level details and like really making the image pop. Um, the issue is that my model is more concerned with getting the image back to the original state. So essentially, if you were to give it like a perfected image, it wouldn't really do anything beyond it. Like it would assume that this is as good as it can be. Um, so what I mean by that is if you had like really fine stars or really perfect stars, um, and you gave it the image, like you gave it normal Hubble data, it wouldn't go beyond that because that's when you start going beyond like I'm afraid to use the word perfection, but going beyond perfection because there's never really perfection, but that's when you start introducing hallucination. But I would assume that his SSI metric would be really high, if not as good as mine or maybe even higher.
Vikram, does it make any difference whether you're using this in a linear or a nonlinear state?
No, it makes no difference. It'll still correct it.
Have
As
you
far as
gone and the question, have you gone and contacted any of the observatories around here, Palomar's, one that came to my mind, to go and improve their images because they're working through the same atmosphere that we're working through?
Yeah. So I'm actually currently working on getting this paper published in a journal. I'm going through that process like currently right now. But once I do that, I do plan to reach out to observatories because I do have like an application for this where it takes an image and it um, tiles it up and it improves it. And I do plan to release that after publishing the paper.
Any more questions for Vikram? Okay, Vikram, excellent work. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
All right, Dave, let's move on to our featured speakers. The Grand Canyon Star Party adventurers are going to share photos and stories about their adventures. Take it away, Dennis.
Veterans of the Grand Canyon Star Party. A little background: it's held every year. Google Grand Canyon Star Party and hit enter. It'll go to the Grand Canyon National Park, and you'll see the dates listed for the next 10 years. It's a big deal to the rangers over there. It generates a lot of people. You can see that this is in a parking lot. It's a commercial bus parking lot. The commercial bus because of the runners over. Right in the place. There's a lot of pictures of periscope right here. Unfortunately, it's hard at night, so it's hard to take pictures. It's just red lights show up, and it was the ultimate in the red light district.
Hey, Dennis.
Yes.
Dennis, we're having trouble with your audio. You're really garbled. You're kind of going in and out. Is there a wire you can jiggle or check your connection?
You know, that's what I do, so I just ended maybe Jose can tell about the history with Dean Kelson. I founded this 30 years ago. So I guess my audio is no good, so I'll give it away to.
Yeah, sorry, Dennis. We can hardly understand you at all. Um, Priscilla, these are your pictures. Do you wanna share some about the pictures and maybe if you knew what Dennis was trying to share with us as well? You out there, Priscilla?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Can you guys hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Yep.
Or yeah, I'm loud, so that helps. Um, uh, um, yeah, so I was having a hard time understanding Dennis, but I think he was just kind of going over what these pictures were, I think, but this was the first time that I have been to the Grand Canyon Star Party, and it was awesome. The whole process is they just make it super easy. You email this lady who's been doing it for years, and as long as you volunteer to do a star party for 4 nights, you get to camp there for free. And the campsite was beautiful. Only downside is that it's a 10 quarters for like a minute in the shower. So they made a lot of money off of me because I like my showers. But other than that, I mean, beautiful. Like you get to, so this picture here is the parking lot behind the visitor center where we get to set up our scopes and leave them there, which was amazing because you didn't have to set it up every day. So like the first day, everyone goes out there, picks their spot, and SDAA, there was like a ton of us out there, and I'm hoping there'll be more next year because like even I think there was like 7 of us at one time, and like I think we had a pretty good showing compared to all the other clubs, and everyone knows Dennis and his sister Annette, who was awesome. And they got to tell jokes every day at the popsicle party before the star party. And that was like everyone knows our club, everyone knows Dennis and Annette. It was like super cool. And then like it's like then they do like awesome talks, like they have like NASA was there talking about the Hubble telescope, and they were talking about like the James Webb, and then the new telescope that's coming that is like a combination of what James Webb and the Hubble do. And they had like podcast people, I mean all kinds of space related talks before each star party. And then around like 9 o'clock, people come, and I mean, at least 100 people every night. And they were just so thrilled to show like anything you could show them. And there was so many stars that sometimes it was hard because like I don't have a go-to. So everything is just by constellation. Um, and so sometimes there was so many stars that it was like hard to find a constellation because you're like, whoa, what, there's so many stars, I don't know which ones to choose from. So like that picture there of the Milky Way, that's just with my cell phone. That's just like, oh boom, let me like just point my cell phone up and there's the Milky Way. Like it was incredible. And all kinds of scopes and so many like fun people, and like Prince William has awesome stories, which I'm sure he can tell you. Annette knows all the constellations, and she was helping me so much. And like, of course, Jose with all his cool gadgets. So it was such a fun experience. Like it was like I don't know, like a whole week of star parties. And like one night me and Jose did like the parade of planets. So we're like out there all night in the parking lot. Like it was so much fun. So I highly recommend it. And I could talk more, but I think other people probably want to talk. So I
Hey,
will.
hang
I'll
on a
be
second,
quiet.
Priscilla. Just
Yeah.
per my email, you sent in the next 2 slide pictures. Do
Oh,
you want
okay, sure,
to just
sure. Let me
continue
see.
your
Yeah.
narration, Dave? Next slide. And then the following
Oh.
slide is also Priscilla's.
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So this is me with my loner scope. This loner scope has gone with me to the eclipse, star parties, the Grand Canyon. So it's like my best friend. And then there's me and Annette at her tent. And it like the campsite is so beautiful, you guys. And and there's like a group of us that were there. It's missing Craig's daughter, the cool Space Force, Stephanie, and also Jose's friends are missing from that picture, and Astro Jenny. It's just because like people came and went and left at different times, and then here's where they had the talks every night before the star party started, and so yeah, that was so much fun. Like the talks were amazing. And like NASA had this really cool booth with like cool stickers and stuff. And like like getting to talk to the project manager and like a lead scientist from the Hubble telescope was I was like, whoa, they're just like here. I don't know. It was super great talk. So it was, yeah, really fun.
That is awesome. One more slide, Priscilla.
All right. Okay. Sorry, I know astrophotographers out there. I'm sorry that these pictures are not, the best quality, but I wanted to illustrate that even with a loaner scope and a cell phone, the sky was so clear that I could get like the Lagoon Nebula with with a cell phone. Like that's how clear the sky was. This was super cool. Jose pointed this out to me in the lower left. There was a cloud in front of the Milky Way, which created that like black thing in front of the Milky Way. Like it was just such a cool picture, and you can see all the red light. They were really good at patrolling the red light. Like I didn't get any white light blasts in my eyeballs, which was really appreciated because I don't know, that happens a lot at star parties. So it was nice that they do such a good job of keeping everyone's lights red, and they do a great job of promoting it throughout the Grand Canyon. And it was beautiful during the day and even more beautiful at night. And it was like cold for maybe the first 2 nights, but then it was like hot at night. It was perfect. Maybe there was like 1 or 2 nights that had a couple clouds, but like still, I mean, the majority of the time it was just a beautiful sky.
Priscilla, thank you for jumping in for this. That was amazing, amazing pictures. I have a ton of questions, but I will hold them.
Okay.
Your group, Dennis actually sent in a number of slides, and they make up the last 4 collage slides. So whoever wants to share stories, adventures, please jump in. Otherwise, Priscilla, tag, you're it.
This is William. I didn't send in any of these pictures, but I can talk toward a lot of this. The Grand Canyon Star Party is really exceptional because it is put on by the National Park Service, and they give us all these perks, entrance into the park, the free campground. They are so appreciative of us. They take good care of us. It's really worth the trip. These people really appreciate us coming out and supporting this. It is huge, unbelievably huge. Priscilla quoted that we would get at least 100 people. That's down on our end of the parking lot. People at the start of the parking lot can get 500, 600, 700 people coming by their scope. Now they kind of thin out, and the San Diego Astronomy Association, we ended up on we were the last people on the parking lot out there. So we got the people after they had seen a lot of stuff and come down to us, but we had some really great experience with it. It is unbelievably dark skies. Now, I talked to Jose about how that he commented he's been to darker skies at some places. He's had it darker than that. But to have this many of the public out there in this kind of darkness, being able to see this detail of stars is just absolutely amazing. It's an experience that everyone should actually experience, should go through, should have the opportunity to enjoy. I'd like to share one story that I had. We ended up setting up the San Diego Astronomy Association. We ended up setting it, not because we were intending to, but just the way it got set up. We ended up being at the end of the parking lot. You had 40, 50, 60 telescopes out in front of us that people would go through before they got to our scopes. And with us out there, we got a smaller crowd. And as a result, I think we had an opportunity to talk to the people more than some of the other ones did because they were trying to process so many more people through. My telescope ended up being the very last one on that line. So after my telescope, it was the scrub brush out in the field out there. My favorite, the story I wanted to carry was that in any time we have an outing like this, a star party, we're at the mercy of the weather. Now, the Grand Canyon, in the middle of the desert, we're likely to have very good weather, and most nights we have excellent clear skies, but they do get clouds. And we had one night where it clouded over and we had virtually no sky whatsoever, nothing. Now, as long as it doesn't rain, I'm going to be out there because people have come to the Grand Canyon. We get a mix of people showing up at the telescopes who tell us they came to the Grand Canyon and, oh, what a surprise, they had the Grand Canyon Star Party. I actually talked to quite a number of people who said they were there because of the Grand Canyon Star Party. That's why they came to the Grand Canyon that week. So we get a lot of different people, those that are surprised and those that are expecting it. But when the evening comes up and the sky's gone, I mean, what are you going to do? You can't show them anything up in the sky because it's just clouds in the way or the sucker holes, so that you say, oh, there's something, and you try to go to it, and it's gone before you get there. But the worst night, I believe it was Wednesday night, was the worst night of the 8 nights at the Grand Canyon. It just clouded over, and by the time it got dark, you essentially couldn't see anything up in the sky. There were no stars at all. There was nothing. So I'm sitting there and people are wandering by. And surprisingly, I actually got more people at my telescope down there on the end on that Wednesday night when there was no stars than I did on the previous 2 nights when there were stars. Okay. But the story I wanted to tell was standing there in the dark. I had a group of young people, high school age teenagers, come up and ask about it. And sadly, I couldn't show them anything through the telescope, but they started asking questions and I started talking to them. A very well-behaved group for teenagers, okay, who eventually I had something like 25 to 30 teenagers sitting on the ground around me, in front of me, asking me questions. Now, unfortunately, what they wanted to know about was aliens. I talked about what I could, tell them about, what I thought about the possibility of life out there, how I personally hope there's something out there, but we found no evidence of it, what the likelihood might be that there's something there, and why we might or might not be able to identify other civilizations out there. And they just kept asking questions about it and different things. We were able to talk about some astronomical stuff, like I told them that unfortunately I couldn't point it out to them, but about TCRB, T Corona Borealis, and how it's about to go nova. And so that was, a good time up there talking to them about that. But sat there and talked to them at least 25, 30 minutes. This well-behaved group, they were, raising their hands, asking questions, talking the whole time, until eventually, out of the darkness, another young person comes up and says, oh, the teacher or the coach, whoever it was, their supervisor, was really upset. They got to go. Come on, we all got to go. We all got to go. And so all of them were getting up all of a sudden and leaving, except for 2 that stayed behind, come up to me in the dark there and wanted to thank me for, talking to them. They were very pleasant and appreciative, wanted to know what my name was. And I told them, that I was Prince William from San Diego. And it was like, San Diego, this group was from Carlsbad. They were from Carlsbad and were there at the Grand Canyon, had no idea we had the star party going on, but I had the opportunity to talk to all these Carlsbad high school students representing the San Diego Astronomy Association. So you never know who you're going to run into. We get people from all around the world that show up. We have great experiences. It is something everyone in this club should try. Go to the Grand Canyon during the star party.
Absolutely amazing. How many more slides do we have, Dave? 2? 1 more at least, I think. Anybody else want to jump in?
Yeah, can I say something? Can you hear
Absolutely. Yep, we can hear
Okay.
you.
Yeah, so this is Jose. I just want to say that there was a good representation of SDAA this year, and it's always nice to have it. Whenever I've been going to this event since probably 2006, and that's where I met Dean Kettleson, who was the founder of this Grand Canyon Star Party. Yeah, he passed away last year, and the group of astronomers that attended this year really did a nice tribute to him, and it was really nice to see. I guess a lot of his family came to, see the acceptance of the award, an award that he received. But anyway, he was a good friend, and whenever you go to the Grand Canyon Star Party and see Dean Carlson, you knew you were at the Grand Canyon Star Party. As you can tell from Priscilla and Prince William's excitement, I can't top that. That's kind of how giddy and nerdy we get when we go to this thing. But yeah, to have our group, which is primarily the outreach group at the SDAA, and transport us to a place like this and do what SDAA does best as far as Star Party stuff, it's just hard to beat. And every year I go, you see old friends that you meet and make every year. And we had pretty good weather this year. So yes, come join us. You'll have a blast. I did do that overnight with Priscilla and the others, and that night went fast, and it took me 2 days to recover from that, but I have no regrets. So anyway, next year. Thanks.
Jose, quick question for you. Size-wise, how big is the South Rim Star Party compared to the North Rim?
Oh, it's huge, probably 10 times bigger. Only because we're at the visitor center. There's probably about 60 astronomers at this location where we're at. The north is 1,000 feet higher, but they got a small porch and you can't really fit more than 10 or 12 scopes over there.
Yeah, I remember it.
Yeah, this is where it's happening here.
Okay. Yeah, I remember going over this to the North Rim at one point in time.
Yes.
And there were quite a few dobs set up on the back patio of the visitor
Right.
center, which I thought was rather unique.
It's a nice vantage point, but again, you can't fit a lot of people over there.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Craig Storms. Just like to add, my daughter and I went and had a lot of fun. First time we used our telescope someplace that was this dark, and we were amazed at how good our telescopes actually were by seeing them in a really dark sky. It was a lot of fun setting up next to Jose and our San Diego Avenue there at the end, because we were able to show people different things. I would be on a open cluster and Jose would be on a globular cluster, so they could learn different stars, different items that were out there. To new items that I was able to see, the Leo triplet out there with all three of the galaxies was just really cool. And then learning new things with Scorpius and the spider cluster and just a lot of fun. Our first year going with this, 2 previous years we went as just going to the park because of the Star Party. And it's just a lot of fun and a good group of people. I learned a lot on this trip and look forward to next year.
I'm not sure who took this picture. What's the story behind the mobile astronomy trailer sitting here? That looks pretty impressive.
That thing was like a howitzer sitting there. I mean, ready to shoot off cannons. Check out his spotting scope. It's bigger than my 8-inch. That was one amazing telescope set up there. I'm not sure who it was, but one of the things that Priscilla commented on is we get a lot of different types. There's a large number of homemade telescopes. There's quite a few really professional equipments. There's some really big telescopes that people would set up, and man, I'd be scared to death to move around these 17-inch monsters that they have floating around out there. But just a gigantic variety from this year they didn't have it. In a previous year, there was a guy that had made his telescope out of Home Depot plastic buckets. That was his tubes for Home Depot plastic buckets. So you get all different types, and everybody had something different to share with the audiences coming through there. But that was by far the most sophisticated rig that was set up out there.
Out of curiosity, the bigger scope, what is that? Is that a 18 or 20 inch that he's got sitting there?
I don't recall.
Yeah.
I mean, I went by and marveled at it and then went back to my little 8-inch.
Trying to audio again. Can anybody hear me?
Barely. Back off of Dennis, back off of the microphone just a little bit.
I'm aware of it. You know.
Trying to hear you, but you're muffly,
Yeah.
marbly.
Okay. Never mind.
Well, just try to say something. We'll see if we can understand you.
I'll already tried. I don't want to waste their time.
Come on, can't you translate for him?
No one can translate for Dennis.
Hey, I'd like to say something.
Sure, go ahead.
Priscilla pretty much covered what I was going to say. she said it all. I was just going to say this place is awesome. Me and Dennis look forward to this every year. We count down the days until we can go to Grand Canyon Star Party. We set up our tents. We get in there, check with Miss May, and set up our tents, and then we're ready to go for the week. And it's always so much fun to see all the SDA peeps and all the old friends, and seeing Jose and Craig and Prince William, Astro Jenny, and it's so much fun to hang out with everybody. And like, what was it? Craig said, or William, they said it. We call it SDAA row. You have the whole community of astronomers with tons of scopes, but ours is the special group. I feel like ours is great. And it's just like we're a little community, our own little neighborhood. It's so much fun to help each other. And one of the great things was meeting Priscilla for the first time. She's new, and it's fun to have a fellow female astronomy peep. So that's fun.
Yeah.
The guys are fun too, but the guys don't understand how, they don't get it when us girls go and jump up and down and say, "Oh my gosh," when you finally find something from our star hopping. We don't have go-tos, and we star hop. We're old school. So we're like, yeah, we did the high fives, and it was so fun. And I was really proud of her because she found the rose cluster, M5, and I was like giving her high fives for that. That was amazing. Good job. And I was really impressed, Priscilla. And I look forward to the Huevos Rancheros midweek breakfast that George always puts on, because I love avocados. And I think his name's Doug, David. I think he's a friend of Priscilla's. He's tall, or Astro Jenny. He's a tall guy. He always brings avocados. I look forward to his avocados. And we had a yummy breakfast. We had a catered lunch from Grand Canyon Conservancy. And
that was good food.
That was really all.
That was good stuff.
Awesome. The whole week was great, and I love showing visitors the constellations. And I like using my laser pointer and pointing things out to them. And one of my favorite things to do is because Dennis is so chatty and he's always talking to everybody. So I go over and go off by myself, and I see all these people, and I'll get a group, a family, or a mom and a girl, or a daughter, son, and I'll say, "Hey, would you like to have your own personal constellation tour?" And and they're so jazzed, and I take them around, and I just stand in the middle, and I take them all around 360 degrees, and I show them all the stuff up there, and they're so amazed, and I get the thank yous, and I feel appreciated, and it's just really fun, and I enjoy doing that. And I think one of the best things, one of the highlights that everybody won't admit is that they like to hear Dennis's stupid, corny jokes at the end of the meeting. So I think everybody enjoys that. Yeah, Prince William, you know you love him. Especially mine. Mine are better though, of course, but whatever. So anyway, oh, and you saw that stupid picture of us in the cutout, me and Dennis. That was like from a couple of years ago. So I don't know who put that in there. Dennis was put in there and thought it was funny, but I love that picture because it shows my brother's true dorkiness. So it's his true image there. See, I'm the cool one, of course, and he's the dork. Anyway, Grand Canyon is awesome, and if you have never gone, you need to go. Even when you're not stargazing, you're in nature and you see the beautiful canyon and sunsets, and we saw elk, and I saw an elk and mother and a baby, and it was awesome, and just being with friends, and it's fun. So go do it.
I saw a pair of elk over by the bathroom, blocking the doors to the bathroom.
The elk.
Go up to the water fountain, push the button to turn the water on, take a drink, then push the button to get a drink. The elk were turning on the water fountain.
They're smart. They figured it out. Yep.
You guys,
I'm
Go
kind of
ahead,
curious,
Dave.
what parking lot do you guys set up in?
This
Where
is
is it
the
in relation, where is it in
yeah.
relationship to the main lodge or the visitor center? Is it the visitor center parking lot?
It's right
the
behind the
Mather,
visitor center.
Okay, it is the
Okay.
Mather Point parking lot.
Ah,
Where, the Mather Point, it's the tour bus parking lot.
okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I know exactly.
We
Commercial
take it
bus.
away. Yeah.
Great, thanks. We've done some bicycle riding up there, and I'm just kind of figuring out, okay, how many cars that were not permitted to park and exactly where this thing was. But yeah, I know where the tour bus parking is. Did you guys get to set up for how many days? 3 days, 4 days? What was the
8. If you
8
get there
days.
early enough,
Wow.
8 nights.
Yeah.
wow?
8 days.
Where'd the tour buses go if you guys sucked up their parking place?
I don't know.
I mean, there were some tour buses there, but by the time it gets dark, we fill up the parking lot is 2 stages. One is closest to Mather Point, and then another one that's a little bit further away. And we were on the farther away one. When we would arrive at sunset, there was always 1 or 2 tour buses there picking up people from Mather Point as they left after sunset, to leave. But I don't know. Someone said there's an overflow parking someplace else that the tour buses had to go to. But that's one of the concessions that the Park Service does for us, is they shut down this thing that's something that's regularly in use. They shut it down so that we can set up our telescopes. And it is very nice to be able to set up your telescope and leave it there. Some people choose to pack it up every night. I personally, and quite a few others, as you can see during the daylight pictures, we choose to set it up and leave it there. It seems safe enough. We'll put a cover on it, and it's there when I go to play with it the next evening.
Yeah, I've never had a problem with my gear there in all these years, so.
Thanks to all you guys. That was an amazing recap. And I bet you there's going to be a giant group going next year. I think somebody put it in the date. End of June is 2025 Grand Canyon Star Party.
Yeah. This year was a little bit earlier, but they always pick time with new moon, so that we don't have to, battle with the moon at all. So next year in June, it was the 8th, or no, the 28th. What was that date? June 21st through 28th.
Yeah. Yeah, you can tell what an awesome time it was. You guys are smiling in every single picture. I mean, it looks amazing. You answered every single question I had. As all of you shared your stories, thanks so much. But I think the question not answered is already answered, because it sounds like it's taking inside the park, but is there any dogs allowed? You can't have dogs, right? No dogs around? Did you guys see any dogs?
Yeah, there were dogs. They have to be leashed. That's all. Because a lot of campers bring their dogs. So.
I want to say one thing, next year, as far as seeing the sky, and the constellations will probably be even much better because it's going to be the end of the new moon happens to be more towards the end of June, and the summer constellations will be coming up, or they'll be higher in the sky because it's later in the month. So at the beginning of June, they're just coming up when the sky's getting dark, and part of Scorpio's tail is behind the trees, and the teapot is below the building, and some of the people are already going, walking away because they're tired. But next year will be better because they'll be higher up in the sky sooner. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yep.
Good tip. Somebody form a committee. Let's get a huge group and go next year.
Yeah.
That sounds like so much fun.
I think we could afford to hire a bus, couldn't we?
Yeah. Form a committee. Submit your ideas. All right. Any more comments, questions for either of our speakers tonight? Otherwise, we'll move on. I wish I would have made the quiz next because it has to do with the Grand Canyon, but let's go ahead and move on to next slide. Guess the reveal contest winners. So we had about 30 brave people enter the contest, and the question was, guess the big reveal. We wanted to know what you guys were thinking the big announcement was going to be on June 22nd. So I think it's only appropriate we start with the last place winners, and if you're out there reading your last place answer, go ahead and confess up if you want to. We had aliens are joining the club. We're moving to Mars. We were gathering with all that great food and entertainment just to announce new bylaws, and of course, maybe buy some more land to have a rocket launch site. So unfortunately, none of those were right. But the next slide are the winners. And since I already have your names, I will be sending you a 10-pack sticker pack of club stickers. So congratulations to you guys. Some of you guys got it right on. That was pretty good.
I don't think that number is quite right. 500K? Somebody underestimated.
It's yeah, I know. Yeah, that's true, but at least they were beyond aliens joining the club. So they win. Next slide, Dave. Let's move on to the quiz. This is for one club sticker. There's 10 different ones. Collect them all. Please don't shout out the answer, but the first 3 people to answer correctly, both questions in the chat, win their choice of a club sticker. So number 1, Grand Canyon National Park is one of 17 U.S. national parks certified dark sky by the International Dark Sky Association. Name just 2 others. And true or false, so the Grand Canyon created its own weather? True or false?
Well, we put this in the chat?
Yep. Both answers in the chat. First 3 to get both questions correct win 1 club sticker. I'll give you a few more minutes before we show the answers. Do we have 3? I can't see the chat. Is there a lot of guesses? Does anybody think they've got both right? Oh, here we go. Everybody done guessing? All right, it's 7:59. We're going to close the contest. Next slide, Dave, is the answers. Who are our winners? Jose, are you a winner? I'm trying to see.
I got 2 of them. All
right, we got Jose is a winner.
William's a winner.
Yay. Hey, I got 2 of them, B. I got 2 of them.
Did you, Dave?
I got 2 of them also.
Right on. Congratulations, you guys. Fantastic. All right, last slide is just who's up for next week. It's going to be a great meeting as well. Next slide, Dave, is Rob Zellum is going to be joining us for a presentation. I think he's a return speaker. Is that right, Ken?
Yes, he is.
Yeah. I haven't got a title of his presentation, but when I do, it'll be posted on the website as per the usual. Well, we ended right on time, you guys. That was an amazing meeting. Thank you so much for everyone who participated.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Sign up for and go to the Grand Canyon Star Party next year, everyone.
Fun meeting.
Oh, you'll love it.
That's a plan.
Start a
Good
committee.
meeting.
Let's start planning.
Fun stuff.
Square.
Who's going to head the committee?
You are. You're the committee.
I'm overcommitted. Who? Priscilla? Prince William?
I would do it.
Yeah, okay.
I know,
I'll
on,
be Priscilla.
Right. Fantastic. Thanks again, you guys. This was an awesome meeting. Thank you so much.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, B.
Take care.
Take care.